Tonight we have a conversation about the summer feeding program and what's going on with that, but we'll begin with 3 segments with the Mayor President. Roll it, Kirk. Well, you know, the political season hasn't really started for East Baton Rouge Parish, but let's have a conversation with the Mayor President anyway. We got a lot to talk about. The first 3 segments are going to be with Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome. We've done television before, but first time in the new digs. What do you think?
Congratulations.
All right.
Moving on up.
Like George and Wheezy. So listen, let's talk about this. And yes, we will talk with the mayor about Brave Cave, but that'll be in the second segment. Right now, I'd like to talk about the announcement you made a couple of weeks ago that you are running for a 3rd term. And not a big surprise to most people, but what's your motivation behind doing it? Because you've been in elected office for a long time.
Yeah, well, you know, it's the same motivation, Clay, that I had when I first ran, and that is a heart to serve this community. And I have one more opportunity to serve because the mayor has an opportunity to run for 3 terms. And I think that there's a lot of intentionality behind that. But I will say from a personal level that we have been building a foundation. We had to dismantle a little of the existing foundation, rebuild, and so we've been building since then. And I believe this last term you will see the manifestation of many of the seeds sown. You'll see the manifestation of a big construction project at work in terms of what we have been doing. And we've got the information, we've got the results, we've got the data. And so I believe that this last term, we will be focused on some areas that we will see the fruit of all of our labor.
Let me ask you, in nearly 8 years, what do you think and I'll put these together, what do you think your biggest win has been? And then what has been your greatest challenge, the thing you still have left to fix?
Well, of course, you know, I would say 2 of our biggest wins. One, the Movie BR project, the largest infrastructure project in the history of Baton Rouge transportation roads. I would say, and I'm going to couple all of these, navigating through crisis. Since I have been mayor, we've had a number of crises. We've had to heal from a major crisis before I became mayor of 2016. And since then, we've had weather events, we've had a pandemic. But the win is we are still standing as a community. And let me tell you, my belief, and I want everybody else to join in this, to see this through the eyes of vision and faith and the work that's going to be coupled with it, is that Baton Rouge is positioned to be the best mid-sized city in America.
So, you know, it's so interesting because we'll talk in the 3rd segment about the economy. The unemployment rate in Baton Rouge is actually lower than the national
Absolutely.
average. But the perception by so many people, and I know I was at Rotary one time when you spoke, I think you do have to have a perception challenge by some of the people here, not everybody, but people here that don't think it's going well. What is your response to that?
My response is get the information. We're going to continue to provide information. You know, the data, the results show that things are going better than most people think that they are. We know that perception plays a big part of individuals' reality. But when you look at the results, the work that we can point to, just as you said about, well, listen, we are the economic driver, not only for this region, but for the state.
Do you think, well, what is your approach going to be? Because you're going to have to communicate that this year differently, because not only are you the city and the parish's executive, you're on the ballot. So you're going to have messaging that makes people understand why it's winning. What's your approach?
Well, we're not only going to have messaging, we have a plan that we're going to consistently get out to the community. We're going to tell our story. And
Which is what? What's the story of Baton Rouge?
Our story is that Baton Rouge is a great place for families. It's a great place for educational opportunities. We've got certainly 2 universities. We've got a research institution in Pennington. And we have the Mississippi River, which is one of our greatest assets. So in the days to come, Clay, you're going to hear me talk a lot about that. But you'll also hear me talk talk about our 5 focus areas, which is improving the quality of place and quality of life, which is certainly creating equitable business opportunities so everyone can thrive. Improving public safety is certainly one of our goals.
Talking about that in the next segment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we'll get to that in a second. Let me ask you, are you worried about any of the names out there talking about challenging you?
I am not worried about anything, because as you know, I'm a woman of faith. So I'm gonna put it out there. And, I don't worry about anything. My life is in God's hand at the end of the day. And listen, we're gonna tell our story, we're gonna work hard, and we are in it to win it for the people of Baton Rouge.
Fired up this morning.
Oh, yeah.
I think Johnny Asian made the coffee today. So look, we're gonna come back and talk with Mayor Broome about public safety. She mentioned it just a moment ago. And then in the third segment, we'll talk a little bit more about infrastructure here in Baton Rouge. She mentioned Move EBR and also the economy of Louisiana's capital city. Back with Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome in just a moment.
It's the best of both worlds. Baton Rouge's best selection of premium cigars and an unparalleled cigar lounge experience. Located in Town Center, it's Don Juan Cigar Company and Don Juan Cigar Bar. Walk into our amazing humidor at Don Juan Cigar Company, then walk next door and experience the plush atmosphere of Don Juan Cigar Bar. Come see why we are Baton Rouge's cigar and good time authority. Don Juan Cigar Company and Don Juan Cigar Bar.
President Sharon Weston Broome. This segment we'll talk about public safety and crime in the city. And obviously, when we scheduled to do this interview, the news had not broken about this recent chapter in the Brave Cave. You've heard about it. I know that it's in the IA process now, internal affairs process at Baton Rouge Police Department. But what's your position on these allegations made, and how is your administration addressing it?
First of all, my position is the same position that I came out with when we first heard of the emergence of the Brave Cave, and that is the Brave Cave has been shut down. We immediately solicited support from the FBI. Our Internal Affairs Department has been at work, and the same thing will happen. As you know, when you have litigation, there's only so much you can say, but my commitment remains the same, and that is to transparency, and that is to justice for all.
Because it is shut down and there's not anything else that's going to happen there because it no longer exists, what's your approach about any potential additional information that falls out of this before you had the opportunity to be made aware and shut it down?
Well, we've always said that we encourage people, if you have a complaint with BRPD, to file that complaint. Many people have been filing complaints with the FBI. And so we take everything very seriously. And this case is a very serious case that our Internal Affairs Department will be looking at, the chief will be looking at, as well as we know that the FBI is involved.
You know, I know, again, you got to be careful about what you say, because if it's in the process, and I know when Scotty's story ran, I'm sure, like many people, you're surprised at more information. How does that impact the way that you and newly announced Chief Morris approach your engagement with the community? Because you have to be able to maintain trust with the community and the Baton Rouge Police Department.
Clay, one of the keys to maintaining trust is to demonstrate our commitment to transparency and to justice. And that is embraced certainly by the leader of the city, the mayor, as well as our chief. Now, we're going to continue to do the things that we have been doing to close the gap between our police department and the citizens of our community.
What does that look like?
Well, first of all, Chief Morris has been going everywhere, engaging the community, giving them an opportunity to get to know him as chief. And we know, Clay, that's part of 21st century policing.
Right.
So the chief is not running away from the issues that people may be discussing in the community, but he is sharing with the community, and he's the best person to tell you about his approach.
We'll get him in here.
He's telling the community, making himself accessible, being a good listener, and assuring them that, as he says, that the work is inside the department and outside the department.
How do you address, and I'll ask you a two-part question, how do you address both any morale issues you may have, while also continuing to recruit and add to the ranks of the department?
Well, when you look at 21st century policing practices, officer well-being is part of that.
Right.
And so Chief Morris, who is a 20-plus year veteran of the police department, is very cognizant of that and has, if you look at his 100-day plan, he has certainly included that in his plan. And so I believe that he will be sensitive to officer well-being as it correlates or coordinates, I should say, with the 21st century best practices.
And then recruiting. How do you get more
people?
So
listen, recruiting is not just an issue for Baton Rouge.
It's all over. State police, sheriff's office.
It's all over the nation.
That's true. Yeah,
it's all over the nation, not just here in Louisiana. And so we have done things like offer $10,000 incentives for people to join the Baton Rouge Police Department. Our chief has a high sensitivity when it comes to recruitment and retention because he's been over the academy.
That's right.
He's been over the academy.
His first graduating class as chief takes place on Friday, as you guys are seeing this. What made him stand out?
Well, I will tell you that, first of all, he is committed to reform. He is committed to 21st century policing practices. He's one of 2 individuals that has been trained in implicit bias training and procedural justice. And I believe certainly his heart is not only with the men and women of the Baton Rouge Police Department, but with the community. You know, he started his journey being on the streets as a uniformed patrol officer in places like Eaton Park and throughout North Baton Rouge. So he's not a stranger to those communities and has made a lot of connections over the years.
Well, you know, we'll get him in here pretty soon to talk for himself. And we're going to come back and talk with the mayor about infrastructure. I know that as you are seeing this, Thursday morning was just absolutely, we'll talk with the mayor about Move BR and what we're doing with infrastructure here next. So everybody cares about traffic in Baton Rouge. There's food, there's weather, and then there's traffic. It's the third rail of topics here in Baton Rouge, and Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome is here for another segment. And this week we had a couple of challenges on the interstate, and then obviously that's federal highway, but it does impact where your citizens live and move and work. Game plan for 2024 for traffic. When will it be good for us?
Well, let me just say this. You're right. The interstate is federal.
You pounced right on that
I want people to remember that. But guess what? That's why we are working on a number of projects. So when the work is going on the interstate, people can take some of our main thoroughfares. And guess what, Clay? One way they can take them now very smoothly is because our lights are synchronized. You can go down streets like Government Street and other streets, and you will see that 90%, I think, I want to make sure I have that percentage right, of our lights in Baton Rouge are now synchronized. We promised, I think it was like 400 plus, maybe 476. And so we're almost complete with that. And that's going to help out a lot.
Well, this is that part of the process. And again, you're going to be talking about it, I'm sure, this fall, because people are going to be asking you, when are these roads going to be fine? But we knew when we started, you go through that choke point when the construction has to happen and it can be disruptive. So how do you communicate that to people? Because I see it, you know, I move around the town to make them understand. And what's the best way to make them know, hey, avoid here, go there?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. We are, as we do our projects, we will have an online presence with our website where people will be in fact, we're going to have a website dedicated just to the projects as we're working on, so people will know when a project is going on, another route that you might want to take. And listen, we're inviting community organizations to come to our traffic center so you can see first class, the technology at hand. You can understand how we navigate with our traffic. And so we invite community organizations to come out, take a tour of our traffic center, and I think it will add value to their frame of reference in terms of how we're getting people moving around our city.
How far are you through Move BR?
Well, it's a 72 2 project initiative, and right now I would say that we had a bump because of the pandemic, but we're making enormous progress with projects from North Baton Rouge to South Baton Rouge, and so I would say we've got a ways to go, but this year you will see even more projects emerge, in addition to our road rehab program, which is separate and apart from Move EBR. We're taking care of our roads. Yeah, we're taking care of those potholes.
And then, I got a couple minutes here on the economy. Dr. Lauren Scott talked about the economy of Baton Rouge. The Baton Rouge Area Chamber had their annual meeting, and they talked about how the economy is doing, businesses are thriving here. What's the goal for this year?
The goal is to continue to create equitable opportunities so people...
Explain what you mean when you say that.
Well, I mean that there are a lot of people in our community who are small business people, who are minority women, veteran-owned businesses. And so we're trying to open up the opportunities so these people can be a part of the fabric of our economic accomplishments here in the city. And listen, we know that we are creating jobs here in Baton Rouge. As I said earlier, we are the economic driver for this region, but also for the state. We're about to have, as soon as Amazon opens, 1,000 new jobs in addition to those that are already emerging.
We'll get you back in a few weeks. How about that?
I'd love to.
All right, so let's talk about this summer feeding program that's been the subject of conversation across the state. I'm still trying to figure it out as well. We'll talk to some people who are coming onto the set right now. Y'all can walk this way. They're joining us in segment number 4 to talk about why we aren't accepting these federal dollars to feed these babies in Baton Rouge. Back to do that in just a moment. Not gonna lie to you, this commercial break has been one that I wish I could have put on television. It's been something else. Dr. Nicola Hall, Hope Hickerson Dr. Hall is with EBR Schools, Hope Hickerson is with Healthy BR, and Pepper Roussel, and she's earned that nickname, the truth, food activist here. And so, serious subject, the Electronic Benefits Transfer Program, the summer program that Louisiana is not going to be taking advantage of, at least as of now.
Right.
We had a conversation, Dr. Hall, maybe a month ago about this, and there are some layers to this. First, the previous administration had the opportunity to lock this in and did not. And the current administration is openly saying we're rebuffing these dollars. So just for your perspective, Louisiana's share of this program is about $71 million. Our match is about $7 million, but the USDA said we'll pay for half of that. So it's about a little south of $3.5 million that Louisiana would be paying out of a $902 million budget for DCFS. So the math doesn't make sense. So what's the deal with this?
So it's here's what we want to stand on. It's all about kids, right? And this is going to be a major issue if we do not have those summer EBT dollars, right? So EBR is doing as much as we can to bridge that gap, to make sure that summer feeding continues. However, when kids are out of school, that's the time that they're most able to not be able to get food, right? And access to food, right?
Because they're not in school.
They're not in schools to be able to get a breakfast and lunch program, right? And then even though we have summer programs throughout the district or throughout the region, there's still going to be an opportunity that kids not going to be able to get meals, right? So the summer EBT is going to be a great supplement to make sure kids always have access to food, especially over the last year. Just in Baton Rouge alone, food insecurity grew 35%.
Wow.
So for me, the math ain't mathing.
And just the math ain't mathing. So Hope with Healthy BR, what is your connection to this? I know that that's an initiative by Mayor President Broom's administration, who was just here a minute ago. What's your connection to this?
Well, the mayor, she is the chair of the Mayor's Alliance to End Childhood Hunger. So she has a vested interest in it. Of course, we all want to make sure children are being fed anyway, right? So she has a vested interest in this. And so we have a number of initiatives and programs that we're trying to at least try to fill that gap. One being our Go Get Healthy program, which is a nutrition education program that we deal with. We work with farms to bring about community gardens. We work with the YMCA and some local hospitals to do nutrition classes.
There's your website, HealthyBR.
Thank you very much.
Right now. Yeah.
To do nutrition classes and grocery store tours to give people the autonomy to pick their own fresh foods and understand like what's nutrition, what is this, how do I cook this, is this healthy for me and my family. So there are a number of ways that we're trying to do that and try to increase the food access. But this summer feeding thing, like
it's essential.
It's essential. Like
and
we have
across
to.
Louisiana, there are thousands of children who won't be eating because they won't be in school.
That's right.
You know, Pepper, from your perspective, I mean, this is detrimental. And I think most people get that this isn't a boondoggle. It isn't a bunch of money we're wasting. It's essential. What's your perspective?
Well, my perspective is that we just really want for people to be able to eat, right? So One Ridge Coalition's, our aspirational statement is that we want to foster an inclusive community where the culture, it creates opportunities for all. Our Capital Area Food Equity Coalition, for which Dr. Hall is a co-chair, we just want for people to be able to eat 3 meals a day. Now, we start with children because who wants to see a child go hungry?
Right.
But understanding that it is not just the child, right? So if the child is hungry, then chances are that the entire household is food insecure.
Well, listen, politics gets in the way of so many things, and I think it dunks up the works, you know, on either side when it comes to this. This isn't about politics. This isn't about a waste of money. It's not a lot of money when you look at it. It's less than 1% of that overall DCFS budget. And I think there are kids who live in communities who during the summer don't eat.
That's right.
School is not just for them to learn. A lot of them are getting fed there.
Right.
So Representative Jason Hughes out of New Orleans does have a House bill that compels Louisiana to opt back into the program. What's your position on that? I did speak with him yesterday, and he told me that there is bipartisan support for it. What's your perspective?
Well, so the bipartisan support is really useful and helpful, right? Objectively speaking, though, right, we have to figure out some sort of a way that we do not have to compel our governor to do things that are in the best interests of the constituency. The idea that we do have a functioning program or a program at all is aspirational at best, right? So if you cannot get to a summer feeding program because you do not have transportation to arrive, and it is an on-site feeding program, then that creates additional complexities for folks who are working hourly wage jobs.
I got less than a minute. Tell everybody again quickly where they can get information about this.
So if you have an organization and you're going to be running a program during the summer for kids, and you would like us to feed your kids, please check us out at EBR website. There's so much information and resources there to be able to provide meals for you for the community.
Well, I'm going to have you guys back because I know this is not done, and we'll see about getting Representative Hughes to join us when we have the conversation about this. But I appreciate y'all coming in.
Definitely.
And behave yourself, Pepper. All right, so this week, most people who had cell phones were hotter than fish grease, and we're going to talk a little bit about what you do if you end up in a situation like that next week, and more on the mayor's race. So we appreciate you guys checking us out. Show number 2 here at Big Number 9, and we look forward to doing more. See you next week.